Welcome America Smiles members, America Smiles customers, and those of you who may be new to the America Smiles network. In video 1 of this two-part series, we introduced to you 5 things every lab owner must do differently after COVID-19. We suggested that laboratory owners need to stop accepting bad impressions, stop doing free remakes, stop tolerating late payments, know your business as well as you know your craft, be a farmer and not a hunter. I then went on to list some of the very real benefits to being a laboratory owner and made the argument that it's these benefits of being a lab owner that cause us to tolerate the bad behaviors from our dentists. When I challenged you to stop taking or accepting bad impressions, stop doing free remakes, and stop tolerating late payments, I knew that most of you would raise the concern that these recommendations would cause you to lose some, if not all, of your customers. As I said in the first video, it's the benefits of being a lab owner that cause us to tolerate the bad behaviors that we accept from dentists. I also promised you that in changes 4 and 5, which we'll address today, that I would show you the necessity to change 1, 2, and 3, and then number 5 will give you the courage to do it. So in today's video, part 2, we're going to address know your business as well as you know your craft, and be a farmer and not a hunter. So number 4, knowing your business like you know your craft. Most lab owners put most of their effort into knowing their craft. I'm amazed at the number of laboratory owners that don't know the business nearly as well as they know their craft. Your lab business requires its own specific attention to ensure its long-term viability. I won't be able to go into great detail on dental lab business management, but I'll touch on some of the most common areas of neglect that I've seen from most laboratory owners. So I've got 4 of them listed here, and I'll just read them off. You have to know your exact material cost, know exactly what your material costs are to make a dental restoration. You have to know the exact amount of labor time it takes to make a specific dental restoration. You have to assign a labor cost per hour to yourself as you participate in the fabrication of dental restorations. And finally, you have to know your fixed monthly cost to operate your lab, such as rent, utilities, and so forth. Knowing your exact material cost and your exact labor cost allows you to know your exact combined cost to produce any specific dental restoration. Once you establish what you actually charge a dentist for the restoration, you can successfully deduct your exact combined cost of production, materials, labor, including your own labor. So you have the fee that you charge the doctor, let's say it's $100 for argument's sake, and if you deduct your material and labor, and let's say that's $60, now you have a gross profit of $40. And once you know what that gross profit actually is, and then you also know what your monthly static expenses are in total for rent and utilities and loans and other stuff, you now know how many units you need to produce to meet those expenses. So after your gross profit, if you have $40 left over, all those $40 is, if that's a word, have to add up to be able to cover all of your static expenses. So you take the gross profit that remained, and I'll just repeat it here, you take the gross profit that remained after your material and your labor, and you use that gross profit to pay the monthly expenses. If there's any money left over, you now have what's called a net profit. And of course, you get to pay taxes on that. If you monitor these very basic business fundamentals, you'll find that you're really in no position whatsoever to be doing free remakes, specifically or especially when it's not your fault, and you're in no position to be acting as a bank on behalf of your dentists. Of all these things that I mentioned in this segment, the most important one is to assign, and the most overlooked really, is assigning a value to yourself in terms of your hourly service to the business. This is the only way you can truly establish your cost of production. So most laboratory owners haven't picked and said, hey, I'm worth $20 an hour, or I'm worth $30 an hour, or $35. you really do need to establish a price for your hourly service so that you can find out exactly, and it's reasonable, not you as an owner, but you as an employee, maybe what you would pay an employee to do what you do. But you have to establish that so you can actually find out what it costs you to produce a crown. So this data is extremely important so that you accurately know how many units per month are needed to pay all of your monthly expenses and still sustain a healthy video. A healthy video, I apologize. Still sustain a healthy business. I'm reading the next line. So you have to know what your gross profit is, and it's usually a very small amount, maybe $5, $10, $20 per part, but all those accumulate and gather up together at the end of the month to be able to afford your monthly expenses. Now in a later video, we'll go into much greater details on establishing and maintaining healthy fundamental business practices. Okay, so now for the mysterious being a farmer and not a hunter. This is the segment that can absolutely transform your business. This is the segment that will give you the courage to no longer tolerate bad behaviors from your current clients. The concept of being a farmer and not a hunter is actually a marketing concept. It presumes that the hunter is desperate and needs to eat and therefore is hunting for new clients. The farmer mentality is always this. The farmer is always preparing the soil, fertilizing the soil, watering the field, caring for the field, and preparing for a bountiful harvest. Our philosophy here at America Smiles, and the philosophy that we teach to our members, is that marketing and advertising should be an ongoing, steady, and predictable part of running your business. I'd like to say a lot of times is that the only difference between you and Jim Glidewell is marketing and advertising. And I know it's a stretch, but there's a lot of truth there. Marketing and advertising should be as predictable as sending out invoices and sending out monthly statements. Now, maybe it shouldn't be as routine as sending out invoices that you do that on a daily basis, but it should be as predictable, and it should probably be just as routine as sending out monthly statements. See, your responsibility is to create a supply and demand problem for your laboratory. We all learned supply and demand in high school, and I'll repeat that. It's your responsibility to create a supply and demand problem for your laboratory. You have to realize first that you don't sell teeth. What you sell is time and talent. A consistent and predictable marketing and advertising program should create a high demand for your limited amount of time, creating an intentional supply and demand problem. This supply and demand problem gives you more flexibility in terms of what behaviors you will tolerate from your clients and what fees you will charge for specific services, including remake services. A consistent and predictable marketing and advertising campaign creates a predictable flow of prospect clients, allowing you to have the courage to change the culture of your business and change client behaviors. Marketing and advertising gives you the ability to raise prices, demand on-time payments, or even dismiss clients who won't conform to your new business practices. Remember in the first video when I talked about the benefits of being a lab owner? We talked about repeat business being such a tremendous benefit. We discussed how gaining one new customer, I even used the example of meeting a dentist in line at a grocery store. Gaining one new customer can turn into a $3,600 or $3,500 a month account. It can turn into a customer that's worth well over $250,000 over a 10-year period of time. I told you in that video that it was the ease of repeat business that led to the lab industry's worst behavior. That behavior being having no marketing and advertising program. No offense, but this really caused lab owners to be lazy and to not have to have any marketing or advertising program because of the ease of which you can meet a doctor and suddenly, be making a lot of money. The problem with this is that when you lose a client, you suddenly become a hunter, hunting for a replacement. Imagine if you were an electrician, a carpet installer, or a painter that paints people's kitchens and bathrooms. These guys are always hustling for the next job because they don't enjoy the gift of repeat business. Once you hire an electrician, when do you call them again? Or a carpet installer, you may call that same guy, but 10 years later. I think we don't realize the real gift that we have in this industry when it comes to repeat business. So I want you to imagine for a moment. Imagine if you marketed and advertised with the same level of urgency that nearly every single business has to. It would transform your dental lab business. Well, there you have it. Those are the 5 things that I think every laboratory owner should change. The first 3 have to do with changing your doctor's behaviors. Number 4 proves the urgency and necessity to change them. And number 5 gives you the power and the ability and the courage to change them. Here at America Smiles, we're always here to help you grow your laboratory. I would suggest that for a very simple, consistent marketing program, you call us and ask us about the America Smiles One Voice program. This program allows you to reach the nearest 100 dentists to your dental lab each and every month with a custom postcard for only $150 a month. I created the America Smiles One Voice because I thought it was the simplest, most affordable, most effective way to reach the nearest 100 dentists to your laboratory on a monthly basis. I want to thank you for taking time to watch this video. I want to thank you for your trust, your continued confidence, and until next time, God bless.